Good evening, everyone. This presentation is over job satisfaction and engagement, why investing in people builds loyalty and retention. My name is Dustin Hackler. It's for Houston Christian University for class Management 6352, taught by Professor Cook. Will be submitted December 7th, 2025. So the workshop purpose is explore how job design and employee investment drive satisfaction and retention. The objectives are connect organizational behavior theory to practice, provide leaders with actionable frameworks, and highlight risks of treating employees as expendable. Why engagement matters. So the issue is engagement is a strategic advantage in modern organizations. The objectives are to show how engagement boosts performance, innovation, and retention, and identify costs of disengagement. That could be absenteeism, it could be turnover, or also reputational harm. The position engagement as a competitive differentiator in talent-driven industries. The theory's overview, frameworks, multiple organizational behavior theories that explain satisfaction and engagement. The objectives will introduce job characteristics model under Hackman and Oldham. It'll highlight social exchange theory and Herzberg's two-factor theory, and it connects the psychological contract and social identity theories to reputation and trust. Introduction to JCM, the theory, is Hackman and Oldham's job characteristics model, JCM, and it links job design to motivation. The objectives are to define the 5 core dimensions, show how job design creates meaningful work experiences, and position job characteristics model, JCM, as a diagnostic tool for leaders. Your skill variety, the dimension is skill variety increases motivation by expanding employee capabilities. The objectives are to define skill variety as the range of tasks and abilities required. Show how training expands skill sets and prevents stagnation, and connect skill variety to retention and career development. Task identity, the dimension for task identity builds ownership and accountability. The objectives are to define task identity as completing a whole, identifiable piece of work. Show how clear ownership fosters pride and responsibility. And connect task identity to employee satisfaction and loyalty. The task significance dimension, task significance deepens commitment by highlighting impact. The objectives are to define task significance as the job's effect on others, show how employees value roles that make a difference, and connect training to reinforcing task significance. The autonomy dimension, autonomy builds trust and responsibility. The objectives are to define autonomy as freedom to make decisions about work. Show how autonomy increases engagement and innovation, and connect training to preparing employees for autonomy. The point to this is you don't want your employees to feel like they're slaves to an organization or to a supervisor or superior. You want them to have freedom to make their choices regarding what work they're putting out. Feedback, very essential and important. The dimension is feedback reinforces growth and motivation. Objectives, define feedback as clear, timely performance information. Show how feedback strengthens learning and engagement. And connect leadership training to effective feedback delivery. Some of the best information I've received in my career has been constructive feedback. It's groomed growth and also maturity. JCM outcomes. The result is high scores across dimensions. Create meaningful work. The objectives, show outcomes, motivation, satisfaction, and reduce absenteeism. Connect job characteristics model to stronger retention and performance. Position job characteristics model as a framework for redesigning jobs. Retention and loyalty. The benefit is investment in employees builds loyalty. Objectives, show how valued employees stay longer. Connect growth opportunities to reduce reduced turnover, and highlight loyalty even when external offers arise. So I found this particular picture I want to highlight here for just a second. Inspirational a little bit. Loyalty is when someone is there for you without being asked. So the reason that that's important is throughout my career I've always wanted to grow and prosper, and specific leaders or people, employees have been there, even though I didn't ask them to be, to lend a helping hand in grooming my growth in whatever I was going for, whether it was in the crafts, welding, or whether it was being an inspector, or now whether it's trying to pursue management at a higher level. So tacit knowledge preservation. The benefit is experienced employees carry irreplaceable knowledge. The objectives are to define tacit knowledge as expertise not easily documented. Show costs of losing experienced employees, and connect investment to protecting organizational memory. So employees that have worked for organizations for a lengthy period of time are essential to the sustainability of that organization in the manner that they know the processes, they know the procedures, they know the day in and day out details that oftentimes new employees coming in will not know. It takes a specified amount of time, training, and experience to understand all of these principles. So these employees need to be retained if at all possible. Training and development as engagement multiplier. The benefit is training signals trust and investment. Objectives show how training boosts discretionary effort. Connect training to motivation and performance. And position training as a multiplier for engagement. So training oftentimes gives employees ownership to what they're doing, and it guides them to feel as if they're more beneficial to an organization or to a team that they're working with. So throughout this process, it can also build trust with them by the company investing in them. Employer brand and talent attraction. Benefit, developing people strengthens employer brand. The objectives show how investment attracts stronger candidates. It connects employer reputation to recruitment pipelines, and it positions brand as a competitive advantage. So we already talked about investing in your training, and your employees will help the experienced employees or help the current employees that you have, but it also will attract new strong candidates. For instance, I work for an inspection organization. We specialize in inspection and examination, and oftentimes if your brand shows that they're willing to invest in their employees and try to retain those employees, strong candidates from other organizations or possibly from a university or college are more apt to want to work for those specified organizations that they know are going to take care of them and grow them and guide them. Social exchange theory. So theory engagement is built on reciprocity. Objectives are explain how investment fosters loyalty and commitment. Show how neglect breaks the exchange, leading to disengagement, and provides examples of mentorship, career pathways, and training. So mentorship is the art of creating and nurturing leaders for tomorrow. And you know, one thing that I've held true, I've been in the industry now for 23 years, my industry that I work in currently, and oftentimes when I first started, a lot of people that didn't want to mentor you, they potentially thought maybe you were after their position, and that's simply not true. Being a younger candidate, a younger employee in an organization, your thirst for knowledge, of course, exponential usually, and it's not necessarily to take another person's job, because eventually those people will want to retire, they'll want to move on with their lives, and so it's just grooming growth for the next generation, or even the current generation. You're just grooming them. And it also another thing to keep in mind with that is if you ever really truly want to move up, if someone is not trained to take on your responsibilities to the full extent, then there's really no room for that growth. Somebody has to do, that job, and if you're the only one that can do it, then you'll more than likely stay in that job. So Herzberg's two-factor theory. The theory is growth and development are motivators. The objectives define motivators versus hygiene factors. It shows how neglecting motivators leads to disengagement, and it connects growth opportunities to satisfaction. Psychological contract theory. The theory is employees expect fair exchange. The objectives is define psychological contract as implicit expectations. Shows how broken contracts breed distrust and disengagement. And it can connect investment to honoring the contract. Social identity and signaling theories. The theory is employer treatment shapes identity and reputation. The objectives are show how employees tie identity to employer, connects poor treatment to morale and self-image. It will highlight word of mouth as a signal to prospective hires. The transactional mindset and hidden costs. Problem is treating employees as expendable undermines success. The objectives are to define transactional mindset. If one leaves, we'll just hire another. So for a moment, let's pause. We talked briefly earlier about employee retention, training, investment. So for any organization, management, supervision to hold this theory, this mindset that if one leaves, we can just hire another. That's one, I feel that it's unethical. You want to put more value in your employees. They're the ones that are on the front line. They're the ones that are performing the work. You know, you're supposed to be working as a team. So if you lose a teammate based off of just this, that's a pretty sad situation. You could have retained those employees easier had you just changed your views a little bit. Identify hidden costs, whether it be recruitment, onboarding, and lost productivity. So the thing that you need to remember is when you lose an employee, you do have to invest in your recruitment. So, you know, usually you'll have a HR representative with each organization that's responsible for recruitment. Not saying that others may not assist with this process, but typically it goes through your human resources. But even with that, your onboarding, the more times that you have to hire, and they have to be trained about, you know, your company policies, procedures, your benefits, anything like that. It's going to cost time. It's going to cost the organization possibly unneeded funds and lost productivity. If you lose an employee, say that they quit the same day, then you lose someone performing whatever task that they were performing, and you don't have anyone else that can, then that's going to cost you some productivity there. And connect immediate thinking to persistent instability. Risks in technical and safety industries. The problem is expendable mindset is especially risky in critical industries. The objectives are to show how expertise and safety are essential, connect turnover to performance and safety risks, and highlight catastrophic potential of disengagement. So safety should always be at the top priority. We're tasked with the philosophy to be our brother's keeper and take care of one another and make sure that each of us go home in the same manner, if not better, than what we came into work that morning. And a lot of us, we have people who depend on us, but we all have people who love and care about us. And we need to keep that in mind about one another and not just ourselves when we are performing these tasks. You know, if something happened to them, their families would be devastated. If something happened to us, our families would be devastated. So we need to be our brother's keeper and take care of one another. Employee discouragement and disengagement. The problem, feeling undervalued leads to disengagement. The objectives show how discouragement reduces morale, connects disengagement to withdrawal from development, now highlights ripple effects across the teams. So when your employees are undervalued, they do become disengaged. The morale is hindered. Oftentimes they don't want to come to work. When they are at work, they don't want to perform at 100%. They can just really impact your company's overall production, but it also can impact your employees' behavior, their morale. So you want to try to limit that as much as possible. Reputation damage. The problem would be poor treatment, erodes employer brand. Objectives show how disgruntled employees share negative experiences. It connects reputation to recruitment challenges, and it highlights sustainable barriers to success. So one thing that I've always held true with is marketing for any kind of company. The best marketing is word of mouth. So if you have managers or supervisors that neglect employees and they don't treat them necessarily the correct way, they're unethical or immoral in their approach, those employees will talk with each other. It's inevitable. And not only will they talk with one another, they'll talk with outside people, outside employees with different organizations. And then rumors spread, and then it could cause reputation damage. So there's something else to keep in mind. Cultural toxicity. The problem is disengagement spreads and it creates toxic culture. This is something that we mentioned just in the previous slide. The objectives are to show how why bother attitudes emerge. So basically, why bother means I don't care, I'm not doing that, I'm not going to try. Connect culture to performance decline, and it highlights the need for proactive leadership intervention, which will oftentimes happen with good managers, good leaders. They will intervene, try to correct the issues and do what's best not only for the employees but also the organization as a whole, as an entirety. The workshop activity overview. Activity is participants apply theory to practice. The objectives are redesign jobs using job characteristics model, JCM dimensions, maps turnover costs versus training investment, and brainstorms hidden costs of expendability. And it discusses stories about employer reputation. One thing I want to talk about here momentarily is the map turnover costs versus training investment. Thing to keep in mind about that. So your turnover costs, if employees quit immediately, you can't really plan that. You have to just go ahead and address that issue as soon as possible, really. So especially if you need somebody in that position to perform or produce, then you're going to have to just take a cut on that. But your training investment, you can plan training out most of the time. If you know about it in advance, then you can schedule it at a specific time to be done, and you can usually train multiple employees if needed in whatever they need to be trained on. Cost mapping exercise. The activity is compare financial and cultural impacts. The objectives are to quantify turnover costs versus training investment, and to highlight reputational and morale impacts, and to encourage participants to evaluate lasting return on investment. To debrief and takeaway. The takeaway is leaders must treat employees as investable assets. Objectives are apply job characteristics model to align training with growth needs, use a checklist, expendable versus investable treatment, and recognize every interaction as an investment in reputation. So everything that you do day in and day out, you need to have cognitive function and remember you're working with people, and they oftentimes remember how you treat them, whether positively or negatively. The conclusion is investing in people is essential for success. Objectives show how job characteristics model provides framework for satisfaction and engagement. And connect investment to reduced turnover and meaningful work, and position engagement as critical for sustained organizational success. Here is a list of the references that I used in order to perform and complete this presentation. There are 4 of these references here. I would advise go here. I've learned my rate of detail over organizational behavior and theories through reading many of these. Thank you.